Welcome to the journey of pugging a +20 key, with yours, Mr. Damlow, and the tale of Milking Monk. Milking Monk has been through a lot already in the series, travelling across 16 key levels already, some with victories, others with betrayal and solace. As his travels continue, so does his experience, knowledge, and his declining mental fortitude. 3 key levels left to the mesmerizing beauty of a +20 weekly vote. Keep watching to find out the result of this journey in who knows how many episodes left as we milk this monk.
Welcome to episode 8 of the Pug Journey to a +20, where we are picking up with a little bit of gearing. We managed to complete our Mythic Weekly, in which we get our vote from that. And from this chest, we actually do receive a weapon upgrade, a 402 weapon. Now, we probably could have got a lot better from this, but it does have a crit verse. It does give 10 item levels on our weapon. Now, the good thing about this is previously we did indeed craft a intelligence weapon. So that is going to help us out here. And I believe it picks up our item level to a nice 398. Now from here, what I am looking to do, you can see we are on 6 concentrated primal focus. We may be able to get a 418 craft to upgrade our main weapon. I think that would be a big upgrade. If not, we could always potentially look at crafting a 418 elemental lariat, but we'll see if I actually need it to eventually get to the +20. I do plan on playing this character a bit once we complete the series and making the stats and the gear a bit more optimal to what we have right now. Now, on top of this, we have our weekly vote. So let's kind of have a look what I'm thinking that we could do with upgrade. Boots would be nice. A new trinket, as I'm not really using what I have available to me. So let me just double check I'm in the right spec, and we are Brewmaster. Occasionally you may want to spec DPS if you're targeting certain trinkets that you can't get otherwise. And we get some okay gear come through. We get some heroic tier, which would have been nice, a chest piece and that. But the main thing that I'm looking at is the boots. Although that's the biggest upgrade, there is a 418 trinket. I just kind of have a look at this trinket and see if it was worth it. But it's definitely not worth replacing the decoration of flame. It's not always down to item level when you're looking at these trinkets. So instead, I pick up the 415 boots. They do have crit on them, and I am wanting to target crit and verse. It's a big item level upgrade from my 392 to 415, so that is quite a lot of agility even, on top of that, and that puts me up to 399 item level, which is big. That is a big improvement for where we are. Now, I have a couple of options from here. I could go, now that Valor is uncapped, I could go and farm some lower level keys, but since I have been managing to complete these keys, and you notice we are starting up with an 18 academy here, I wasn't able to do my ruby in time from the previous week, so we got a 18 academy to work our way through. If I hit a wall at this point where I didn't think I could tank at these dungeons, I would look at doing some lower level keys, joining them, and possibly farming some Valor. Because it's uncapped, we can quickly run through dungeons as soon as possible and upgrade our gear from there. And that could get me quite a lot of upgrades from where I am now. However, in the interest of time, and I'm probably not spending a lot of time showing you the farming those lower level keys, and the fact that I think we can push where we are, I think I'm at a sensible item level, we're going to be jumping straight into these. Now, a couple of things I want to point out with this key in particular. It's an 18 academy. We do this first ball in 2 separate ones, and really I'm kind of just getting a bit of an idea with where the DPS is, and the group that I pick up wasn't the most experienced, and I just kind of wanted to get this key out the way. I kind of knew that I could tank it, so I pick up some people that still have been doing these keys and still were essential IO, but maybe not as specific as I would have done next time. Also, the trick to timing keys this week. This is the first time I'm playing with bowstring on this monk. And I've kind of learned that it's almost an affix that doesn't really need to exist. And what I mean by that is don't let it hold back the bigger pulls that you're doing on the trash. Although it's bowstring, it is a tyrannical week. We can save so much time by doing these larger pulls, and if we think it's getting out of hand, we can then kind of weight that back and, you know, drop a ring apiece and make some space and kite. You notice I do this pull in 2 separate ones for the Ravager. That's because I don't want the big mob to get 8 stacks of it, but I am wanting to constantly be doing some AoE damage and allowing the group to do AoE damage. So this is why I split this pool up into 2 in particular, and we're able to finish this pool off quite sensibly. Now we're going to skip the next pack. We do pull them 1 by 1, so nothing too interesting happened with it in particular. But I do want to point out the time we got to the boss, at 5 minutes here. So it took us 5 minutes to get to this first boss. And Veximus is a bit scary. Now, we routed towards Veximus first. That is because we want our lust timings, our heroism, on Veximus and then on the second boss, Krorf, because Krorf is quite scary. Here I make a mistake. This is one of my first mistakes in this dungeon. The boss frontal, I should have tanked it. Instead, I was trying to focus more on the fact that I can soak up these orbs. I'm always trying to get about 3. But shamefully, I was a bit greedy with getting those keys, and I did not see the frontal. So that was completely on me. I got the Demon Hunter kill. Luckily, we had our 1 res, and we have our Arcane Fisher, and we are moving out of the way. Now again, I'm seeing there's lots of orbs coming up, so I'm going to try and collect on them. The Arcane Fisher, I'm always trying to keep in the same direction so that the DPS aren't having to guess. Now I'm also realized that I'm not preempting my defensives on these casts. What I should have is a full Celestial Brew at the very least, or one of my other defensives to cast when that frontal goes off. So that is something that I definitely need to improve on. And even here, I'm not really using it sensibly. I am using it after the cast, and I'm not preventing as much damage as I should be. Now, unfortunately, our healer does die here. It gets caught by the Swirly of Death, and shamefully on a fight like this without a healer where there is so much unavoidable damage, the group could not make their way through it. We do, however, come back and we're able to kill this boss without loss. So we are able to take it down on our second attempt and move on. But with 1 wipe in it as big as this and going quite slowly, it would probably mean that the key is not timed itself. Now, I don't really show the time we kill the first boss. We do end up killing it at 11 minutes, and we move on to the second one. And this is where, unfortunately, the key breaks. We do have a bit of a problem with dodging swirlies in the group. So this time, as we're moving out of the way, unfortunately, the healer does get caught. We're still at 60% HP. Nobody can battle res, and that unfortunately means that the key is dead. So we're left with a 17 academy. We can regroup, take a bit of a breather, calm ourselves down, because I definitely wasn't upset, and move on to the 17. Let's go. You subscribe. Okay, new group, new me. A very similar comp to the last one. Instead, we have a priest healer and a druid. Now, my confidence kind of went up a little bit from the first. I was pretty sure that I could tank this at higher level. I grouped them together, and I make sure the mythic blast does not go off. That is the main one that we want to avoid. And we start rotating some of our AoE stuns at this point. And you can see the damage coming out from this group is actually kind of crazy, really. We're able to get high up into the DPS And I believe in the last fight, we took 5.5 minutes to get to that first boss. Well, just in terms of this one, pulling these larger packs, and as I said before, bowstring, do not be scared to kind of pull larger. It is a tyrannical week. We need to save time somewhere because the bosses will take so long. So here I'm doing some quite scary double pulls, but we are using our kicks. We do overlap there, but again, these things happen. How else can I stop all these casts from going off at some point? Well, I have my Ring of Peace. So you see I stopped the Mythic Class with my Ring of Peace. We're still dishing out a ton of damage. Everybody's doing really well in terms of the damage. The Fell Druid's actually doing really, really well. And even though these mobs are boasted, they're dying so close to each other that it's not making much of a difference, really. It has eight boasted stacks on it, and it still dies within only a few seconds of the other one. And you can see with the timer, the last time taking 5.5 minutes. This time, we're going to be finishing it at around, or ready to fight the boss at around 4 minutes. So a big improvement from the first run that we did. And I kind of learned from this key and going forwards at the fact that bowstring, just pull big. Make sure you have priority damage on certain mobs. You know, if you're in Halls of Valor and you do a triple pull with the star, just make sure that the Drake's the first thing to kill. As a DPS, you know, splash that AoE, but, you know, do make sure you target and focus down the priority targets in here. Now, we already looked at most of the fight from the last one, but in this case, the Veximus fight went pretty smoothly. I was able to use my defensives at the correct time. You see a nice Celestial Brew there, and my HP doesn't even move at all. We're at around 24k healing. The Priest is on 35k, and it dies at the 6 minute mark, so a big improvement. Here as well, I'm trying to make use of the fact that we can pull these larger packs, and this actually turns into kind of a scary pull. We also managed to aggro the other Skitterflies, so we have double Skitterflies. Now, if I was to do this on purpose, I would essentially make sure that these Skitterflies are pulled at the same time to try to reduce the amount of boaster that happens on them, so stuff dies at a similar time. Now, the mini ones don't give the bowstring, so it's not too scary there, but we're able to maximize our damage, our AoE. If you look at the bottom right, we're doing some crazy damage, 120k on the Brewmaster, and everybody else is doing 260k or close to 300. That's great damage for this key, and again, my confidence in this one was shooting up. I knew the group could do this damage. As you go through the key and you kind of get an idea of, you know, what can be put out, you can adjust your pulls to that, or, you know, not pull as much if you notice that the damage isn't going as high. With this one in particular, I knew we could handle it. We're able to stack pretty well through the ancient fight. I should have dropped my Ring of Peace earlier here, and we do end up with 2 dead, but the entire fight was clean apart from that, and I didn't get the aggro needed, so I did apologize for that one. Now, Korth is one of the scarier bosses in here, especially on tyrannical weeks, so very scary indeed. The main thing that we're interested in is the fact that we have Lust in here. It's going to make the fight a lot easier. Don't forget, this fight is on a timer. We do make sure that we only get 4 deafening screeches. Not too much else to talk about on this fight, apart from the fact that it gets a bit spicy at the very end of it. Now, I know we have extra time as well, as we have skipped some of the ads at Vex, so you can see my percentage is 70%, but we are able to clean this up. Unfortunately, the healer gets caught in the frontal. It can be very dangerous in this case. We lose another person, but with Touch of Death helping us out a bit, we are able to bring this kill down. And I do end up dying from my stagger in here. I could have healed to save it, but in fact, it's quite nice to be able to group up with the other players in here. Now we get to our last boss, and by some miracle, looking at the right side on the timer, we have 20 seconds left to make this a +2 key. That would make up for the fact that we bricked it at an 18, and with a bit of help just to secure the kill with Touch of Death and a few seconds left, this key turns into a plus 19. This was only possible by doing those larger pools, ignoring the fact that there is bowstring there at times, and really being able to push our limits with it. And we come out and we are rewarded. We get a cape that has a bit nicer stats, high versatility. We're definitely interested in that. And on top of that, we get our next key. And that key is, in fact, a plus 19 Court of Stars, which is amazing. That is a winner for sure. So let's move into it. The plus 19 Court of Stars. This key we know has potential to it. This key could give us the plus 20 that we've been dreaming of. We start this out by simply frost trapping and ring piecing the mob out the way to skip it, as killing one mob by itself is not really great for count. We move in and we, as usual, focus the sentries and the sabers. Now we have the construct on the left hand side. I'm bringing that in slightly later, purely because I don't want it to get massively boosted up. At the very least, let's just make sure that the worm dies and the sabers die, because then we know the bowstrings are not going to be too bad. Now at this point, what I should have done is actually going to grab the guard to my left, but I didn't really think about it at this time. Using the dock route is still a bit new to me, but I know that we can pull quite large on the dock itself without having to worry too much. So that's what we do. We kind of take advantage of finishing up this construct, and you can see the amount of time that is wasted on here. It's also worth noting that these constructs do take like a free kick rotation to be able to get everything, and the last thing I want is that charging station going off in the group. The charging station does heal all the monsters around it for 5% health every second, so if that went off in a big pool, it would be a disaster in here. So we're going to grab everything that we need to here, and we are mainly making sure that that Arcanist does not manage to cast, whilst avoiding all of these quelling strike frontals. These quelling strikes will kill us if we get hit by them. You do notice the monk goes down, and I do believe I took one of those hits, but luckily as a tank I can survive that. But the amount of percentage we're getting here, a free 10% from this pool alone, and it's pretty safe pool. There is not much you have to kick at all. Dodging the frontals can be rather easy. I would recommend not or to try not to spin these mobs around all the time. And on top of this, try to get them to face the same way with their quelling strikes. Just something to be conscious of. You don't want it to be making an awkward time for melee. The damage coming out is pretty reasonable so far, and we continue on. Now these two, we're able to pick these two mobs up, and also I pull in this construct. I know there isn't any other kicks to go off, and hopefully we should be able to AoE this construct down and make sure that we can kill that. And again, we just don't want to waste any time with killing things one at a time. We want to make sure that we're killing stuff in a group. Now, past this, in terms of the bosses, we are able to kill them all right. It's not too bad. The first one in particular is mainly just down to dodging the necessary things. The group itself is able to do that successfully. And what I want to do is I want to bring us to the second boss. And this is one mistake that I make. I run ahead of the group a bit too far and pull these imps. Now, unfortunately, this leads to a kick being mistimed. Here, a cast goes off and actually kills two of us, or one of us then and another one straight after. So, something that I've learned, I can go fast, but maybe I shouldn't go too fast at this point. So, we do lose a little bit of time there. That was definitely my fault. What I upped, just because I know we have the patrol coming round of the imps, although there's not many left, let's just kill these by themselves and make sure that nothing goes off. And I have a ring of peace to stop these casts. We end up using 2 here. We use some personal kicks. Unfortunately, there's not enough of them to warrant any one-shots happening. Now, we can finish this up pack. One thing about quarter stars that you want to be made somewhat aware of is the fact that you get these trinkets and interactable items around. This one in itself can be done by a healer, and we are able to pull one of the mini bosses. So barring the percentage that you need, any mini bosses that you can get out the way without having to kill an enforcer will therefore save you quite a bit of time. And don't forget, these mini bosses don't actually give any percentage, which is kind of annoying. It's the enforcers you kill that give the 5%. It would be nice to have that swapped around, but just, figure it out. These percentages are quite flexible. The last boss or mini boss that you kill in this dungeon, the one that does the vampire claws, does give you about 5 to 6%. So just an area just to be aware of that you do get that. When counting in your percentage, we go all the way up to 98% with the last pack that we kill. We're able to deal with Flame Reef pretty well. Just make sure that you are stacking up and this fight becomes pretty trivial. Make sure that you blast the imps and it's fair enough. Now we get to Vial. We have, what do we have? 7 minutes, 50 seconds left. And it's looking like a pretty straightforward 19 key. And I'm feeling confident in myself and my ability to tank and the item level that I'm at. Looking the overall, there's 60k all across the board, which is definitely enough. Unfortunately, looking at the party flames, something goes wrong here. Our healer DCs and disconnects at this point. I see that and I spot it. I just am conscious that I now need to keep myself sustained and have to focus more on my own healing at this point. And I know I can keep myself up, but it's a bit of a worry. We cannot do the last boss without a healer. But surprise, they return and we are able to move on to the last boss itself. Now, here we try to get some bait set up, but multiple people kind of split out at the same time, and that makes it a bit messy at this point. But we're able to lust off this. We have saved our lust for the last boss. We have a comfortable 6 minutes. As long as we don't wipe to this, we're good. And cutting forwards, nothing too exciting, nothing too scary happens on it. The baits do go all over the place, but we're able to complete this with 3 minutes 30 to spare. Now this puts me in a position where we now have the plus 20 key in the bag. And I get another cloak, crying out loud, not something that I need. But that plus 20 that we get is, in fact, I was scared to check it, but this is, in fact, a Academy plus 20, which is not great. We just ran an Academy. Now, as for the 20 itself, let me know how we want to do this. I'm thinking it could be quite exciting to do a live kind of talk or a live recording of it rather than setting up a commentary over the top. We just run it raw and whatever happens. So let me know what you think of that. Hopefully you enjoyed this more straightforward episode, not too much learning, and we may be able to get this done in the next episode. Fingers crossed that doesn't get depleted. So thank you very much for joining. Hopefully you learned a few things, and thanks for coming on this journey of the episode. And I will in fact see you in the next one where we attempt the plus 20 key on the Milking Monk.